Why does the church only see the rich? I have been in this church for 8 solid years.
Ain't no good at all.
Not true. 8 years of commitment, 8 years of loyalty, 8 years of showing up when others stayed at home.
8 years is not small. That is almost a decade of your life. That is almost a lifetime of service. And still you feel unseen?
8 years of faithfulness should not feel like invisibility. 8 years should build honor. 8 years should build recognition. So why does it feel empty? Because every Sunday I beat the drums until my hands hurt. Every Sunday I help lift the atmosphere. Every Sunday I give my strength. But when appreciation is mentioned, my name disappears.
Someone, wow.
We hear you.
They call the big donors first. They mention the families that sponsor the program. They call the big donors first. They mention the families that sponsor the program. They clap loudly for those who gave large offerings. But the silent workers remain silent.
And the church celebrates impact measured in money. But service measured in sacrifice is overlooked, and that silence slowly wounds the heart. Last Sunday, the pastor thanked the businessman who bought new speakers. Everyone stood up to clap for him. They prayed special prayers over his life, but I was the one who tested those speakers all night before service.
The real MVP.
True talk.
And nobody knew you were here late. Nobody saw the effort. Nobody asked how you managed. That must hurt deeply.
Recognition may not be everything, but complete neglect slowly kills motivation. Even servants need encouragement. Sometimes I ask myself if poverty makes people invisible. Sometimes I wonder if honor has a price tag. Sometimes I feel like the church sees wallets before it sees hearts. And that thought breaks me.
I understand that feeling. After my parents died, I expected the church to feel like home. I expected comfort. I expected support.
And did you receive it? Did anyone stay long enough to sit with you? Did anyone check your nights? Or did they only attend the burial?
They came for the burial. They sang hymns. They prayed. They left.
And after that?
After that, silence. No calls, no visits, just distance.
It is painful when the church preaches family but behaves like an organization. Family stays, family checks, family notice absence. When I missed one rehearsal because I was sick, nobody asked where I was. But when a wealthy member traveled, the announcement was made from the altar.
It feels like importance is measured differently. It feels like money has a voice, and the poor must whisper.
In youth meetings, I see the same pattern. When a rich young man joins, leaders immediately mentor him. They see future potential. And what about the struggling ones? They sit quietly, they listen, they live unnoticed.
Sometimes I sit in church and look around. I watch how leaders greet certain people first. I watch how smiles become wider around wealthy families.
And I watch from the drum corner. I see everything from that angle. I see who gets special attention. I see who does not. It is not always intentional. But patterns speak louder than words, and repeated patterns become culture, and culture shapes hearts. There was a time I almost stopped playing. Not because I lost faith in God, but because I felt small, replaceable.
We understand. I almost stopped attending too. Not because I stopped believing, but because I was tired of pretending I was fine. Tired of smiling through pain.
And I almost stopped leading youth prayers. Because I felt like I was encouraging others while silently questioning everything myself.
I understand.
I once needed financial help badly. My rent was overdue. I considered telling the church leadership, but something stopped me.
What stopped you?
The fear that I would only receive words. Concern without follow-up. Sympathy without support. We preach love loudly, but love must be felt quietly, not only spoken publicly, but practiced privately.
When I go home after service, the silence in my room is louder than the sermon. The emptiness feels heavier than the offering basket. And I ask myself one question.
Mary, talk to us. We're listening. What question?
If church is family, why do I feel alone?
Sometimes I sit at the back after everyone has left. I look at the empty chairs, its own message. The message is love. The message is unity. The message is that we are one body. But why does the body feel divided?
Why does attention flow in one direction? Why does care follow influence? Why does compassion wait for status? Why does money...
That's a heavy question, Mary. I remember one Sunday when my shoes were torn. I tried to hide it behind the drum set.
You too.
Yeah. I noticed how people complimented a wealthy man's suit that same day. Nobody noticed my struggle. Go on. It is not about jealousy. It is not about hatred. It is about balance. It is about fairness.
We don't hate the rich. We don't resent blessings. We just wish the poor were not forgotten. We just wish faithfulness mattered too.
If I stop playing drums tomorrow, the church will find another drummer. But if a big sponsor leaves, the whole church will feel the shock. That difference says something. It speaks without words. It reveals priorities. And priorities shape value.
And value determines who is seen. Value determines who is called. Value determines who is visited. Value determines who is remembered. Some days I feel like I'm serving a system, not a family. Like I'm filling a role, not building relationships. There are days I feel like a member number, not a daughter of the house. Like my presence adds nothing and my absence removes nothing.
There are days I feel like leadership listens to voices of influence, but not voices of pain. Like decisions are shaped by power, not by compassion.
That's a heavy truth.
Maybe nobody means to ignore us. Maybe nobody sits down planning to overlook the poor, but neglect does not need intention to hurt. It only needs repetition. Mary?
Yes. When something happens again and again, it stops feeling across timer.
And tired hearts slowly withdraw. They stop speaking. They stop expecting. They just exist.
I don't want to leave the church. I don't want to abandon my serve in me, but I am fighting it quietly. I don't want to lose faith either. I don't want to harden my heart. I don't want to feel resentment, but loneliness makes thoughts dangerous.
And I don't want to mislead the youth. I don't want to pretend everything is perfect. I don't want to silence truth. But I also don't want division. So what do we do?
Do we keep serving silently?
Do we keep pretending nothing is wrong? Do we keep swallowing our pain?
Or do we speak? Do we risk being misunderstood? Do we risk being labeled ungrateful? Do we risk being called rebellious?
If we stay quiet, nothing changes. If we speak harshly, we cause damage. So where is the balance? Where is the wisdom? All I ever wanted was to be valued. Not because of money, not because of status, but because of faithfulness.
All I ever wanted was to be remembered, not for influence, but for simply being part of the family.
All I ever wanted was a church where the poor feel equal, where the broken feel seen, and where service matters more than wealth. Maybe the church building is not the problem. Maybe the pulpit is not the problem. Maybe even the message is not the problem.
Maybe something in the culture has shifted. Maybe attention has drifted. Maybe compassion has become selective. Maybe we forgot something important.
The real question is this: are we becoming a church that celebrates contribution more than connection? Are we becoming a church that honors wealth more than sacrifice? Are we slowly building walls inside a place that was meant to unite? If nothing changes, some of us will fade away quietly.
If nothing changes, some hearts will close silently.
If nothing changes, we may still fill the building, but we will lose the people inside it. I understand, Pastor. If nothing changes, I fear I will slowly become a machine. I will play the drums without heart. I will smile without meaning. I will serve without joy.
If nothing changes, I fear I will stop expecting love from the church.
If nothing changes, the youth will learn something dangerous. They will learn that influence matters more than integrity. They will learn that wealth ends access. They will learn that poverty ends silence.
So what can we do?
This is tough. The biggest donors were seated in front. Their names were announced with excitement. Special prayers were made for their businesses.
And the poor?
They clapped, they shouted amen, they watched from behind, and they went home unnoticed. The message may not say it openly, but the actions say it quietly. Honor follows money, attention follows power.
I once needed someone to stand with me emotionally. Not financially, just emotionally, just presence.
Did you ask?
I tried, but when people are busy around important guests, your quiet pain feels like an interruption, so I kept quiet.
Silence becomes the survival method of the poor, not because they are strong, but because they feel small. Do you know what hurts the most? It is not even the lack of money. It is the lack of dignity, the lack of equal value.
Yes, when people greet you casually but switch tone when greeting the wealthy, you feel the difference immediately.
Respect should not depend on bank accounts. Honor should not be purchased. Care should not be selective. But somehow, in practice, it becomes so. I once overheard leaders discussing budgets. They said we must keep our sponsors happy. That sentence stayed in my heart.
Because it means some members are priority, some members are protection, some members are investment, and others.
That's a strong statement, Mary. When protection is built around wealth and not around people, the foundation slowly shifts. And nobody notices at first. Tell me honestly, if tomorrow a wealthy family leaves this church, what will happen?
Meetings will be called, phones will ring, follow-ups will be urgent.
But if 10 struggling families leave quietly, it may not even be discussed. Because they did not fund anything, they only filled seats.
That reality is painful. It makes you question your worth. It makes you measure yourself unfairly. It makes you feel replaceable.
And when you feel replaceable long enough, your heart withdraws. You stop giving your best. You stop hoping for change. This is how churches lose passion silently, not through slow neglect of the unseen. I don't want the church to choose the poor over the rich. That is not what I am saying. I don't want division. I want equality.
The rich deserve love too. They deserve care too. They deserve prayer too, but not more humanity than others.
The altar should level everyone. The cross should equalize everyone. The church should remind us that value is spiritual, not financial. Sometimes I imagine what would happen if leadership intentionally searched for the unnoticed, if they looked beyond the offering envelope.
If they visited homes without calculating influence, if they prayed for broken hearts with the same energy, if compassion was loud.
That would change everything. That would restore trust. That would rebuild dignity. That would heal hidden wounds. Because right now, many serve faithfully but feel invisible. Many give their time, but many stay committed but feel uncelebrated.
Many cry quietly but look fine publicly. Many attend regularly but feel disconnected internally.
And when that gap grows wide enough, people begin to separate God from church. They keep faith but lose belonging. I don't want to lose belonging. I want to feel like this is my home, not just my duty, not just my routine. Mary, what's on your mind?
I want to walk into church and feel safe, not measured, not compared, not ranked.
I want a church where the poor do not feel inferior, the rich do not feel superior, and everyone feels equal before God. Maybe the question is not, does the church love the rich? Maybe the real question is, why does the poor feel forgotten?
Because passions create from patterns, and impressions shape emotions, and emotions decide commitment.
If the poor consistently feel unseen, something must change, not in doctrine, but in practice. I am still here, I am still playing, but I am hoping something shifts.
Praying, but I am hoping someone notices.
I am still serving, I am still leading, but because if the church truly belongs to everyone, then everyone must feel it. I am still serving, I am still leading, but because if the church truly belongs to everyone, then everyone must feel it.
If love is real, then it must reach the unnoticed.
And if we say we are one body, then no part should feel less important. Until that day comes, some of us will continue serving quietly.
Some of us will continue hoping silently.
And some of us will continue asking, when will value stop depending on wealth?
Maybe our silence is part of the problem. Maybe we have allowed this pattern to continue. Maybe we are afraid to speak. Maybe our silence is part of the problem. Maybe we have allowed this pattern to continue. Maybe we are afraid to speak.
Afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being labeled bitter, afraid of being seen as ungrateful. So we endured quietly. But quiet pain does not disappear. It settles, it grows, and one day it changes a person completely. There was a time I used to play the drums with excitement. I would close my eyes and feel the worship deeply. But lately, something feels mechanical. Like my hands move, but my heart hesitates.
That is what neglect does. It slowly drains passion. It slowly steals joy. It slowly builds distance.
And distance is dangerous. Because once the heart disconnects, attendance becomes routine. And routine without connection is empty. I don't want to become resentful. I don't want to look at wealthy members with suspicion. They did nothing wrong. They are just blessed.
Yes, the problem is not their blessing. The problem is imbalance. The problem is selective attention. The problem is unequal warmth.
When leaders rush to protect financial stability but move slowly to protect emotional stability, the message was confusing. And confusion weakens trust.
I remember when a wealthy family celebrated their anniversary. The church organized decorations. The choir sang specially for them.
I remember that day. The celebration was loud. The appreciation was public. The joy was visible.
But when my mother's one-year remembrance came, I sat alone in church. Nobody even knew the date, and I did not have the courage to announce it.
That contrast is painful. One event receives spotlight, another carries silence, and silence can feel like rejection. Do you think leadership knows this is happening, or are they unaware, or are they just focused on survival? I sometimes try to understand their side. Leadership often thinks about sustainability. They think about growth. They think about projects, and projects require money.
But people require care, and care requires intention. If care is not intentional, it becomes accidental.
If the church only grows in buildings but shrinks in compassion, is that real growth, or is it decoration? If the church only grows in buildings but shrinks in compassion, is that real growth, or is it decoration? Growth without equality creates hidden classes, those who are celebrated and those who are tolerated, and that should never exist in a church.
The altar was never meant to rank people. It was meant to unite them, but sometimes it feels like some stand closer than others.
I once thought about reducing my commitment, playing only when necessary, giving only minimum effort, protecting my energy.
I once thought about attending another church quietly, somewhere nobody knows me, somewhere I don't expect anything, somewhere I won't be disappointed.
And I once thought about, but I hesitated. But I hesitated and can cause division. And I don't want to destroy what I still love. So what is the solution? Should we demand recognition? Should we protest quietly? Should we withdraw slowly?
Or should we speak respectfully? Should we request attention for the unseen? Should we ask leadership to reflect gently?
Maybe transformation begins with awareness. Maybe leaders need to hear the heart of the unnoticed. Maybe they don't realize the depth of the wound. Maybe they assume silence means satisfaction. Silence does not mean satisfaction. It often means exhaustion, hopelessness, or fear.
And exhaustion spreads. When one person feels unseen, others who feel the same find comfort in quiet agreement.
And when quiet agreement grows, disconnection spreads, not loudly, but steadily. I don't want this church to lose people quietly. I don't want faithful servants to fade away. I don't want wealth to become priority.
I want balance. I want fairness. I want intentional love. I want equal dignity.
And I want leadership to look beyond offering records, to look beyond sponsorship lists, to look into eyes, to look into hearts. Because at the end of the day, we all kneel the same way. We all pray the same way. We all need grace the same way.
Pain does not check measuring count. Grief does not calculate influence. And God does not rank by wealth.
If God does not rank by wealth, why should the church create that impression? If God sees the hidden, why should the church overlook the hidden? Maybe this conversation is the beginning. Maybe change starts with honesty. Maybe fairness begins with courage. Maybe dignity begins with awareness.
But awareness must lead to action. Otherwise, it is just talk. And we have talked enough. We need change.
then maybe the next step is not leaving, not rebelling, but addressing it. Addressing it without anger.
Addressing it without accusation.
Addressing it with truth and with love. We have talked about the pain. We have named the imbalance. We have admitted the hurt. Now we must ask ourselves, what do we do next? We cannot continue complaining forever. We cannot keep storing silent frustration.
Yes, you're
If
right.
we love this church, then we must fight for its healing. Amen to that.
Yes, leaving is easy, silence is easy, bitterness is easy, but restoration requires courage.
So the first thing we must do is remove pride from our hearts. We are not enemies of the church. We are part of it. And change must start from inside.
And we must speak respectfully, not accusing, not attacking, but honestly.
Leadership is not perfect. They may not even see what we see. Sometimes people at the top cannot feel what is happening below. Then we request a meeting, not to fight, not to embarrass anyone, but to share our experience.
And we speak as representatives of the unnoticed. We speak for the silent members. We speak for those who feel small. We speak for equality.
We don't say you love the rich. We say some members feel unseen. We don't accuse. We explain impact. We suggest practical steps, not just emotional complaints, real actions, clear solutions.
For example, create a care team focused specifically on checking struggling members, not based on offering size, but based on need.
Yes, a visitation team that rotates through all members equally, rich and poor, new and old. We can also suggest that Appreciation Sundays recognize service, not just sponsorship. Drummers, cleaners, choir members, ushers.
Celebrate faithfulness, celebrate consistency, celebrate hidden labor. That alone can restore dignity.
And leadership meetings should include discussions about welfare. Not only projects, not only expansion, but people. Another idea, anonymous feedback. Let members share their concerns safely, without fear, without labels.
Yes, some people cannot speak publicly, but they can write honestly, and leadership can learn what they never noticed.
And transparency matters too. When decisions are explained clearly, people feel included, not ignored. We must also examine ourselves. Do we greet only our friends? Do we avoid the poor ourselves? Do we contribute to the same culture?
Change is not only for leaders. Members must practice equality too. If we want fairness, we must model it.
If we see someone sitting alone, we sit with them. If we notice absence, we call. If we sense pain, we listen. The church becomes different when members take responsibility, not waiting for the pastor to do everything.
And leadership must lead by example. Greet the unnoticed first, visit homes quietly, celebrate the unseen.
When leaders intentionally honor the poor, culture shifts. When leaders prioritize dignity, the church transforms. Imagine a Sunday where a cleaner is called forward and prayed for publicly. Imagine a drummer appreciated. Imagine a widow celebrated.
Imagine a church where no one feels smaller because of income, where no one feels forgotten because they cannot sponsor.
We don't want division. We want restoration.
We don't want criticism. We want correction.
We don't want to tear down the church. We want to strengthen it. So instead of saying, why does the church love the rich? We begin saying, how can the church love everyone better?
Instead of accusing, we propose solutions. Instead of bitterness, we offer wisdom.
Because at the end of the day, the church belongs to all of us. The rich, the poor, the broken, the strong. I will continue playing the drums, but now with hope.
I will continue attending, but now with courage.
And I will speak to leadership, not in anger, but in love. Maybe change will not happen overnight.
Maybe it will take time.
But every transformation begins with one honest conversation. A church that listens grows.
A church that values everyone heals.
And a church that sees the poor as equal to the rich reflects the true heart of God. And so the question changes. Not does the church only care about the rich, but how can we build a church where no one feels invisible? I leave you with the question. Comment, subscribe, and share to save the churches. Thanks for listening.